and welcome to my guide of Desert Perpetual, the newest raid in Edge of Fate. I'm gonna try to explain everything as best as I can, so I hope it's easy to understand. Before I start, if you find this video helpful in any way, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It means so much to me. Also, I will be streaming over on my Twitch channel almost every day, where I'll be doing a bunch of raffles to help out anyone that wants to do the raid and wants to get taught. First things first, this raid is not linear. That means you can do whichever encounter you feel like doing. You could even instantly start the boss encounter if you wish to not do any of the others. So that is completely up to you and your team on which path you want to take. However, you have to start it all manually. So load into the raid, follow this path that will take you to a specific tower. You're gonna take the elevator up, and up there you have specific platforms that you can interact with. Interact with one and it will open up a pathway towards the next encounter. At the top, you should be facing in this direction. That means the Wyvern Encounter is going to be to your right, aka the chicken. The Hobgoblin Encounter is going to be behind you, and on the left of you, the pathway is going to open up to lead you to the Hydra. The one in front of you is going to be the start of the final boss encounter. So let's start with the Wyvern Encounter. All you have to do is walk up to the right platform, interact with it, and then follow the direction that the orbs are pointing to. You are gonna have to go through quite a bit of a jumping puzzle. It should be pretty straightforward though. Just take the path forward until it leads you to a whole new island that you're gonna walk inside to, and inside you'll find the encounter. For the Wyvern Encounter, one of the first things you might notice is this huge portal thing looking straight at you. This portal has an hourglass below it, and you are going to be timed on your entire encounter run, which means if the hourglass ever runs out of time, it's a wipe. So there's going to be a way for you to keep that timer up constantly. This encounter has 3 main platforms, and on each of them is a plate in the middle of it. The way that I do the callouts is this one is the bottom one, this one is the middle one because it's in the middle of the room, and the one right here is the flag one because that's where the flag originally spawns at. These plates all correspond to a different color depending on what the portal is. Now when you start the encounter, the portal is going to have a specific color, whether that is white, blue, or red, and depending on that color, that is going to be how you know where damage phase starts. If the color of the portal is white, it's at the top. If it's blue, it's in the middle, and if it's red, it's at the bottom. However, it doesn't really matter too much because you are going to be communicating with your team, and there will be one person doing a specific mechanic that can literally tell you where damage phase is gonna happen. So in order for that hourglass to not run out of time, 2 people are assigned to look for minotaurs that spawn around the map. When you kill them, they're gonna drop a buff that you can pick up, and all you're gonna do is jump through the portal. That charges up the hourglass, and you can literally see it as a visual right below the portal as the hourglass keeps filling up as soon as you put another buff through the portal. So when you start the encounter, one of the first things you want to do is kill all of the minis that are spawning in the middle, pick up their buffs, and fill up the hourglass all the way. In case you do end up missing a buff or it despawns or you can't find a minotaur, they are going to respawn until you have that hourglass completely full. After that, there's going to be a diamond that spawns right below at the hourglass. Pop that, and that will start draining the hourglass but also start the actual encounter. After that start, you'll notice that you're gonna get booped up into the air uncontrollably because the encounter makes you do it. And that brings me to my next mechanic. There will be a team of 3 people that have to shoot a shape at a specific time. Around the map, there are pillars of these white glowing squares, and each of the 3 players is going to get assigned to one pillar. When the encounter starts, all 3 people have to communicate and shoot their first square at the same time. You always want to start from the bottom. However, not only do you have to shoot it at the same time, you have to shoot it right before that boop happens. At the top of your screen, right below your health bar, are 4 squares that start filling up with a specific sound effect. Once that fourth square is full, that is when it boops you up into the air. So your job is to shoot that square right before it boops you into the air. So up at the screen, you want to see the first, second, and third square fill up, and then right before the fourth one is completely filled up, that is when you shoot, and all your teammates as well. What does that mean? You have one more fire team member who doesn't have any mechanics. This person has to start climbing. So they are going to look at all 3 of the plates, find the glowing symbol, and because those 3 teammates just shot their square, that means platforms have formed above that plate for the person to climb on. The person that is climbing, do not forget to step on your plate that is glowing because it will give you a specific buff. Once you have it, climb up on those platforms until you reach a checkpoint where you have to activate something. After that, you have no more platforms to climb on. You have to hang out on that platform until your team of 3 have shot their next square. This is where they're gonna shoot the middle square on their pillar, and that spawns in the next section of platforms for the climber to climb on. However, that does mean the lower platforms are gonna despawn. Then you're gonna jump up to the next checkpoint and activate it. Repeat that one more time by having the 3 people shoot now their top square, which spawns in the top section of platforms and despawns the lower ones. Jump all the way on top. Make sure that the portal hourglass is filled up as much as possible, and activating that last checkpoint up there will start damage phase. Damage phase always happens where the climber is climbing, so either you can communicate with that climber to tell you where damage phase happens, or you can know depending on what color the portal is. Keep in mind, if the 2 players that have been trying to keep the timer up of the hourglass didn't deposit too much, there is a chance that you have to deposit a buff during damage phase. So if that happens, make sure to find a minotaur somewhere on the map, pick up the buff, jump through the portal so that the wipe timer at the top goes away. After you have the Wyvern boss done, you're gonna go back the way you came, and you'll eventually come back to the main area here. You'll then have to go back up on the elevator to reach the top of the tower, and then you can choose and decide which encounter you would like to do next. Let's start this encounter, the Hobgoblin. In the center of the room, you'll notice 5 rings as well as 3 plates. We're not going to do anything with them yet. First, spread apart and do some ad clearing. Eventually, you'll have a Hydra that spawns in, kill it, and that will start popping up some minotaurs. These minotaurs, when you kill them, drop the same kind of buff that you saw in the Wyvern Encounter. Pick up that buff and run through one of the rings. That will activate the ring and charge it. Do that with all 5 rings until they're all activated. When they are, Wyvern chickens are gonna come in, so take them out as well. Give it some more time by ad clearing, but during that time frame, you'll want 3 people to step on each of the plates in the middle. This will give each of the players a buff. It will only give you a buff once all 3 players are stepped on at the exact same time. Depending on which plate you stepped on depends on what buff you got. There is cyclical, constant, and absolute. If you haven't noticed yet, there are multiple bosses standing on top platforms trying to snipe you down. And eventually, one of them is going to go insane and start shooting gigantic laser beams at you. And he will target literally everyone on your team. Right below your health bar at the top, you'll start having a timer if you are in the view of that sniper. It will have a 10-second timer. Once it hits to 0, he will snipe you and it's going to be an insta-kill. So you always have to watch the timer at the top and take cover as much as you can. The 3 players that stepped on a plate, you'll have the name of your buff right below your health bar. And once that boss shoots those laser beams, look at the boss because his name is specifically to one of the 3 buffs. whoever buffs it is, make sure that they run towards the boss because right below him is a little dunk station where they have to dunk at. During that same time frame, the other 2 buff players have to look at all 5 of the rings because 2 of them are going to be inactive. So buff player 1 will have 2 rings that are going to glow blue instead of red. Those 2 rings have to be called out. Player 2 also has 2 different rings that are also glowing blue instead of red, and they need to be called out as well. Those that are ad clearing, which should be 3 gamers, they need to pick up buffs from the minotaurs and jump through those rings that were called out in order to charge them up again and activate them. The chosen player that had to dunk right below the boss needs to pay attention on these callouts as well. If the callouts were 1, 2, 3, 4, that means the 5th one was the only one that was active, which means the chosen player has to run through all of the rings, but make sure that the 5th ring is the last one they're running through. But make sure that you're running through the rings after all of them have been reactivated from the ad clears. Once the chosen player has ran through all of them, they're gonna have a specific type of grenade. This grenade, when used, will pop a safety bubble around you. So you're gonna have 1 gamer that is going to go out into the open and be bait to that laser beam. They need to do a countdown of that laser sniper that's about to snipe them out. Once the timer hits about 1 second, pop that grenade for the safety bubble, and that will actually start damage phase. The boss will try and snipe you, but obviously fail, so he's going to spawn down to you guys, and you guys can do a bunch of damage. Now you can extend damage phase. The way my team did it is we just assigned 1 person to extend it instead of having multiple people do it. During damage phase, at some point you'll notice on the left side of your screen, it should have a bunch of squares that pop up. That means you're going to choose 1 player of your fire team to extend the damage phase by running through all 5 of the rings again as soon as that pops up, then regroup with your team, have somebody stand out in the open again because the boss will teleport back up to the top and try and snipe you down again, have them do a countdown, you pop your safety bubble, that will anger the boss, bring him back down so you can do more damage, and after that you're going to do it 1 more time, and then it will actually be the end of your first damage phase. Once you have it done, you're going to go backwards to where you came from through the jumping puzzle until you make it back to that main hub area. Go back up to the tower and interact with the left plate, which will bring you to our next encounter, the Hydra. For this encounter, there are 3 teams. We've got the 1 team that is ad clearing in the middle, the next team that are splitting up into each of the side rooms to do a specific mechanic, and the last team who are going to do the same but will eventually have to do a mechanic together in the middle. Starting the encounter, everyone's gonna ad clear here in the middle. There are going to be Cyclopses that will spawn in, 1 on the left and 1 on the right, and they will continue to spawn in every so often. Killing those is a must as fast as possible, because once they've died, the plates right next to them are gonna activate. The 2 players that are splitting up and doing a mechanic on the side rooms are gonna step on their plate and move inside their room, along with their partners. The partners are there to help ad clear. Now those 2 players inside the room have to communicate with each other because inside the room they'll have a Hydra with a shield that will have a light beam and a bunch of buttons on it that are shootable. Now just to make this clear, I call those buttons eyes because they do look like eyes. Now inside your room, somewhere on the wall, you'll have eyes again, and with the buff that you grabbed outside, and while standing inside the light beam of the boss's shield, you will have 1 of the 6 eyes start to glow on the wall. It doesn't matter how you call them out, but the way I call them out is that the first eye on the top left is 1, then we have 2 right next to it, 3 after that, bottom row is 4, 5, 6. Now whichever one you see glow, call out the number, and the other person taking care of the other Hydra has to shoot that exact eye on the Hydra's shield. Just remember, you have to stand inside that light beam from the Hydra in order to be able to shoot the eyes on that shield. The person in the other side of the Hydra room is going to shoot that specific eye, and they are going to give you a call out as well to which eye is glowing on their wall that you have to shoot on your Hydra. And you guys are going to communicate back and forth like that until all the eyes have been shot. However, somewhere in between that, the eyes of the Hydra will close and will be immune to your shots. That is when your partner's mechanic comes in play. So those 2 extra people doing ad clear inside the Hydra room will run out and do their own mechanic. At this point, the Cyclopses have respawned outside, which means the 2 ad clears in the middle should always pay attention and try to take them out as fast as possible. Now, the 2 gamers will step on a plate so they get the buff as well. In the middle of the room, there is a ginormous looking pillar structure that also has eyes on each side. The Hydra will be in the middle rotating his shield, and on one of the sides you have an active light beam that you can stand in it. Make sure you're inside that light beam and look at your side of the pillar. You will have 2 eyes glow and 1 not glowing. Make sure to call out the not glowing eye to your partner that is inside the Hydra room. What happens inside the Hydra rooms is that on top of your Hydras, there will be a triangle connected with circles. Those circles correspond to the 3 eyes outside. So the person that is outside and calling out the eye that is not glowing, let's say it is right side, that means the person inside the Hydra room has to shoot the right circle. And if you're wondering which one is left and right, it depends on where you enter the room. So as soon as you enter a room, right side is right, left side is left, top is top. Now the other person that is also working on the middle pillar has to do the same with their partner, but they are not done yet. Those 2 people are going to have to keep following their light beam until they are on the opposite side of the pillar. Now, from that light beam while standing in it, they have to shoot the 2 glowing eyes. So with my example, if I called out that the right side is not glowing and needs to be shot inside that room, that means my partner has to shoot the left and the top eye because those are the 2 that I did not call out. And I'm gonna have to do the same thing to my partner's side of the pillar. If that is done correctly, the 2 people that are inside the side rooms dealing with the Hydras and shooting the shield down continue doing that exact step. However, their buffs have probably gone away, so they have to run back outside, grab their buff again, and run back in to continue shooting the shield. Also, keep in mind, the only way for you to get the buff outside is when both players are stepped on at the exact same time. Once they have shot all the eyes on the shield, there should be 1 more left, which is the one in the middle, and they can just shoot that one and that starts damage phase. But you are not done with mechanics. The 2 people that just shot down the shield run out to the middle to the boss and take down that shield again. That will slightly start damage phase. Everyone should be able to do a little bit of damage. Eventually, the shield will reappear and 2 people are gonna get chosen at the bottom left. Those 2 people will have one side of the shield that will have a light beam for them and one side that isn't. Find the side of the shield that has a light beam for you. Basically, you guys are going to be opposite from each other. Follow the light beam until you'll have a bunch of eyes that pop up on a shield. Take them all down. It doesn't even matter what order you take them down. Once you shot them all, make sure to shoot the middle one as well, and that will start an extended damage phase for everyone to shoot. Also, while the 2 players are currently taking down the shield, everyone else can already damage the boss. Eventually, the boss will choose 2 more gamers to shoot down the next set of shields. Make sure they look for the light beam, shoot all the eyes until all the shields are gone, and you'll have another extended damage phase, and you're gonna do that 1 more time. Basically, everyone's gonna get chosen for this. If you don't shoot all the eyes on the shield and take it down, that means you will not have an extended long damage phase, and it will then move to the next 2 people chosen to now take down the shield. And that is it for this entire encounter. Again, as always, you're gonna backtrack and go through the entire jumping puzzle again until you're in that main hub area. Go back up to the tower, and this time, you're gonna start the final boss. Interact with the platform in front of you that will actually place down a flag, and then drop down to that white glowing thing in the middle to activate it and start the encounter. Starting the encounter has one of the most epic intros that I've ever seen. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but I do hope you enjoy it when you first get to see it. In this encounter, there's going to be one of those portal rings in the middle with an hourglass attached to it. At the front of it, you'll have 3 plates, one on the left, which is the constant plate, the middle is the absolute plate, and the right is the cyclical plate. A Hydra will spawn on top of each of the plates. Take those down so you can actually activate them. However, the boss actually does a damage mechanic and starts shooting light beams at you. Wait until the first light beam is over before anybody steps on a plate. Once that beam is over, everybody can step on a plate. It doesn't matter how you do it, lots of people have different strats. The way my team did it is we had 1 designated ad clear, we had 3 players on the left constant plate, 1 player on absolute middle plate, and 1 player on the cyclical right plate. Every buff does a different job in this encounter, so the 3 players that stepped on the constant plate on the left side have the power to shoot and stun the boss. That means when you have a teammate yell out beam, just like my teammate.
Oh, that's a beam, properly. Beam!
That means the boss is about to laser beam someone, and the boss will have 4 crit spots that you can shoot with your buff. Shoot them down, and that will actually stun the boss by stopping the laser beam. Not only that, but every time you stun the boss, you are spawning in a buff on specific pillars that is going to be needed later on. 1 player out of the 3 that have the constant buff is not going to shoot the boss and instead do a whole different mechanic. They have the ability to look at floating mines around the map and identify what color they are. It could either be white, blue, or red. The person that stepped on the middle plate to grab the absolute buff has the power to look at the portal in the middle of the map and identify what color it shows, whether it is red, blue, or white. They also have the power to shoot those floating mines around the map. And the final person who picked up the buff from the right plate, which is called cyclical, they have the ability to look at the mines and determine which one is glowing and which one is not. And they can also pick up a buff that drops from the mine and jump through the portal with it. All of that probably sounded very confusing, but I promise it all works so well together once I explain this next part. We're gonna backtrack a little bit. Once you've stepped on your plate and you received your buff, the 2 players that have the constant buff are gonna stun the boss from the laser beam. This will spawn these white glowing buffs on top of pillars. 1 person that has a constant buff, the 1 person that has the absolute buff, and the other person that has the cyclical buff have to do a 3-to-1 countdown, jump on that pillar with a buff, and that will activate a whole new vision for all 3 of you. Before I forget, remember that in order for you guys to get that buff, you have to all stand on the plate at the exact same time. The 3 of you should now be seeing all of the glowing things that I was just talking about. The absolute buff person is going to be first in line, and they need to look at the portal in the middle and call out what color it shows. Let's say the portal shows the color blue. That means the person with the constant buff is now going to look at all the floating mines around the room and call out which one of them has a blue color on it. In my opinion, it is easier to have either a scout, pulse, or auto rifle on, so you can spam shoot the heck out of the mine. Because your partner, who has the cyclical buff, can look at that specific mine that you're shooting at and either say that it's glowing or it's not glowing. What we want is for it to glow. That means it is a good mine to shoot. If it doesn't have a glow on it, the constant buff person has to look around for a different mine that also glows blue. If that mine is glowing, that means the person with the absolute buff who originally called out the color of the portal will be able to shoot that mine. And that mine is then gonna drop a buff on the ground for the cyclical person to pick up and jump through the portal with it. That is going to give more time to the hourglass. And you have to do that for a total of 6 times. That means the 3 of you are now going to find another white buff to jump into, because that is going to give you a timer of 20 seconds on the left side of your screen, which is called temporal oculus, and that allows you to see all of the different colors on your specific job that you have to do. So basically, the person with the absolute buff is going to call out the color of the portal. The person with the constant buff will call out which of the mines basically matches the portal's color. The person with the cyclical buff is going to call out if it's a good or bad mine. If it's good, the person with the absolute buff will shoot it so it drops a buff, and the person with the cyclical buff is able to pick that up and jump through the portal. Just remember that the 2 other people that have that constant buff need to constantly stun the boss by shooting those 4 glowing stuff on it when he does the beam, because that will respawn those white buffs on those pillars that the other players need. After you have dunked for a total of 6 times, a staircase of platforms will appear that will bring you all the way to the top where the boss had just teleported to. This will be the boss damage area, but you're not quite there yet to do the damage. The 3 players that have been doing the mechanics downstairs are going to do one more step upstairs. At the top there will be 4 stations, and the person with the constant buff and cyclical buff are able to see white glowing shapes underneath each of them. The person with the absolute buff will see 3 of those shapes underneath the structure, while the constant buff person only sees 2 and cyclical only sees 2. That means the person with the constant and cyclical buff have to somehow communicate to tell the absolute person which one of the shapes for them are overlapping. Because the constant person and cyclical person can only see 2 buffs instead of all 3, one of them for each is going to be overlapping, and that has to be one that gets activated. The way my team and I did it is that cyclical and constant buff people are going to shoot both of the shapes that they see on the ground, and whichever one they realize that they both shot at the same time is going to be the one that is overlapping, so absolute person has to interact with it, and you're going to repeat that for all the 4 stations on this platform. Once all have been activated at each of the stations, damage phase is going to start. Now during damage phase, you have to shoot those red glowing eyes at the boss to actually do crit damage. But pay attention, because the boss will shoot up to 1 or 2 laser beams that will trace the ground, and if you're standing in it, even in a well, it will kill you. I personally always jump over them when I realize one of them is getting close, but pay attention on the ground, because some of the electricity will stay on the ground for a couple more seconds, even if the beam isn't on that specific spot anymore. At the same time, you want to have one designated player who will extend your damage phase. In order to extend it, is that there is going to be a singular portal that spawns on a platform. That portal is going to have a color, let's say red. That means you have to run around the platform, look for a red buff on the ground, pick it up, and jump through the portal. And you have to do that for a total of 3 times. Just remember that there is not much time you can lose when jumping through those portals. So if you need more help from the team, have somebody else help you out so that you can get that extended damage phase. Once you get to final stand, save all your supers exactly for this part. Make sure to pay attention on the crit spots because instead of it being horizontally, it is now going to be vertical. Watch out for the laser beams, and if you do enough damage, make sure to jump off this platform. The boss is going to explode and take everyone out with him if you're still standing up there. And congratulations, you have defeated the boss. I really hope you enjoy this raid as much as I do. Before I go, once you've gotten your first clear in this raid, the vendor that you talk to at the end in order to buy weapons and armor from the raid, you should now be able to just launch the raid and walk up to it whenever you want to be able to use some spoils on it without having to do the entire raid. Pretty neat, right? And that is the entire guide for you for this raid. I really hope this guide was helpful and helps you with your current raid run or your future raid run. Thank you so much for tuning into my guide and supporting me as much as you do. I cannot even begin to say thank you enough. I appreciate every single one of you guys, so thank you so much. I have always enjoyed teaching other gamers on how to do raids or honestly anything else in the game. I will be doing a bunch of raffles over on my Twitch channel. If you would like to join my fire team, I can teach you how to do the raid, or you can just join to come along and have fun and get some loot. Again, thank you so much for coming in and watching. I will either see you on my live stream on Twitch or in another video. Bye!